John made a suggestion that I am to read, and if that is all still on target with you, I don't know how much or how many. Is it for a round, or should I be reading from the book John F. McMullen? I leave it to your.
Whatever you want. Do you have the book? Why don't you read?
I've got the book, yes, and I'll combine short ones and fast ones with you for that. For those who didn't hear from the beginning, if you were late, this is from a book published by cyberwit.net. It is titled Eternal Never Ending Now. They approached me, they said they wanted to do a book. I was double plus thrilled, and it is available through Amazon, and I am trying to share with you poems that I don't normally share. There are ones that are really well known, like Our Color, Our Gender, Our Creed. I think I've read that a lot, but I couldn't not do that for you guys right now. But I'm trying to find ones that are in here that are different themes and different styles, because there is stuff that goes over a couple of decades of stuff in here. So this first one's a short one talking about strangeness of relationships. So let me find it in here, and and it is titled Run Faster. Why me? Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I keep coming back? I beg for attention, and I don't know how to stop, and I don't know how to be alone. So I keep giving you one more chance to make it perfect, one more chance to save the damsel. But I'm not a damsel, and I'm not being rescued, and I'm not feeling any better. Because even though I hate you, I'll never let go. So you'll just have to run faster. Talking about relationships and stuff with that one. This next this next one was written when I was single. It's not necessarily about the job, but this is an interesting one that I don't think anybody gets, and I really like it, and I hope you guys do too, for the double meaning here. This piece is called Why I'll Never Get Married. At work, we've been looking for a new employee. We've sifted through resumes, we've interviewed a few, and some were good, some were very good, and we took some time to decide, and then we called our number one choice. And they said they wanted more money than we offered. So we said our goodbyes and we called our second choice. And they said they couldn't work at such a small place. So someone at work said that maybe we should interview some more. And that's when I knew, at the rate we were going, we'd never find anyone. And no one would want us. Which is why that one is titled Why I'll Never Get Married. Which, I am now, but, is a good analogy for that, There you go. This one is a 2020 edit of a poem. Oh, gotta get to the page for it, toward the back, called Communication. Now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. Our pleas become computer blips, tiny bits of energy traveling through razor-thin wires, traveling through space, to be left for someone to decipher when they find the time. Got into work the other day, and I got my messages on my voicemail. Mike left me his number. He told me to contact him with some information. Another Mike told me to call him at his office between 10:30 and noon. Lori told me to check my email because she sent me a message I just had to read. So I first returned his Mike first call, but he wasn't in, so I left a message with a coworker, and then I dialed the number for the other Mike, and he listened to an electronic message, dialed in my phone number. And then I got online and checked my email, and I read a note from Ben, emptied out my junk mail. Realizing that I hadn't actually gotten a hold of anybody, I tried to call my friend Sherry, but I got her answering machine. So I said, "Hi, it's me, Janet. We haven't talked in a while." At which point I realized there was nothing left to say. "So, give me a call. We should really get together and talk." Sarah and I were late for Carol's wedding rehearsal, which was a bad thing because we were both standing up at the wedding and we were stuck in traffic. So I said, "Sarah, you have a cell phone, don't you?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, do you know Carol's cell phone number? Because if you can, we can call her and tell her that we'll be late." And she said, "No. Do you have it?" And I said, "No." I was at a bar with Dave, and I was explaining why I hadn't talked to my friend Erin in a while. You see, we usually email each other, and when we do, we just hit reply. And when you get an email from someone, instead of having to start up a new letter and get their email address, you can just hit reply on the email message and just make a new letter addressed to that person who wrote the letter originally. So one of us would send another letter, and we'd ask a question at the end, and so I'd hit reply and get a response. And so another question would come at the end of that letter, and we just having to answer question after question at each other, and we kept replying to each other, sending a letter with the same title back and forth to each other. Well, once I got an email from him and there was no question at the end, so I didn't have to send a response. So I didn't, and I never thought to start a new email message, and we just lost touch. And then it occurred to me how difficult it managed to become to type in an extra line of text, because that's why I lost touch with him. And then it occurred to me that no matter how difficult, how many different forms of communication we have, we'll still find a way to lose touch with one another. Because now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. But what if we don't want to communicate, or forget how? Too busy leaving messages, voicemails, emails, forgetting to call back. What if we forget how to communicate? I wanted to purchase tickets for a concert, but I was shopping with my sister and I wasn't near a ticket outlet. But my sister said, "Oh, I have a portable phone. You can call him if you'd like." So she handed me this phone and I looked at all these extra buttons and she said, "Oh, just press the power button, but hold it down for at least 4 seconds and then the panel lights up. And then dial the number, make sure to use the area code first because this is a 630 area code, and then press send. Oh, and when you're done with the call, you just press end and then make sure the light turns off." So I turned it on, I dialed the number, I pressed send, I pressed my head into that tiny phone, and the line was busy. I couldn't get through. I wanted to get in touch with an old friend of mine from high school, Vince, but the last I'd heard he was gone to Marquette University, but that was 5 years ago. He could be anywhere. So I talked to a friend or two that knew him, but they said that they had lost touch with him as well. So I searched on the internet, and I never saw his name on a website or anything if he had an email address, and he didn't, so I figured I probably couldn't find him. And all this time, I knew that his parents lived in the same house they always did. I could just look up his parents' phone number in the phone book and call them and say, "Hi, I'm an old friend of Vince's from high school." But I never did. And then I realized why. You see, I could search the internet for hours and no one would know that I was looking for someone. But now, with a single phone call, I'd make it known to his entire family that I wanted to see him enough to call after all these years. And I didn't want him to know that, so I never called. Because now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out in the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. But the question begs itself. Who is there to listen? That was communication for you. Oh,
yeah, really.
I've got a short one for you here. I think it's a funny piece. I think I've got a good. I think I've got a good speaking voice, but it never comes off funny when I say it. I had a co-host of my open mic read this poem to people, and they were like, "Bah!" That was just the funniest thing. And I was saying to John, I'm like, I don't know, I think it's funny. Should I get a voice modulator or should I change my voice? And I just started saying it in a different voice. And John started laughing and he's like, "Oh my God, you sound like Sean Connery." No. You sound like Saturday Night Live's Sean Connery. So I'm like, all right, I want everyone to mute themselves because I'm going to try to do this in another voice. And it might be funny. We'll see. It's a really short piece that's called Ways to Spend Your Money. I spent a week in Los Angeles recently. Visited Beverly Hills, Hollywood, Brentwood. Saw the Hollywood sign and Marilyn Monroe's handprint in concrete. Took my picture with Tom Jones's star. But the one thing I noticed was that among the shops that line the streets of every neighborhood, there were quite a few pet spas. Pet spas, I thought. Pet spas. That's it. I'm sorry. It's a goofy goofy piece. It's a goofy piece. Okay, now I'm going to do, because I had a couple pieces and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this one vegetarian themed piece in this book for you guys. And it's a shorter one titled Vegetarian Stands by the Meat Sale. It's raining out and no one wants to be outside. And if they do come here, they just want to get the bare essentials and get home as quickly as they can. They surely don't want to contend with me just trying to make a living. A huge clock looms at the opposite wall. I keep glancing at the time and think of a huge calendar looming over New York and Atlas shrugged as everyone is reduced to merely trudging through their days. Someone wish me good luck, because I think everyone would rather be sleeping than here. And it's true. I just glanced at that clock again. I'm only 1/8 of the way through my day, and this woman who has chosen to not have children has to keep smiling despite the weather and fawn over every passing child I see. This vegetarian stands next to the sign saying, "Hot ham is the deli sale today," as employees place baked ham and fried chicken in packages for sale behind me. I try to smile, because it's my job, even though it's raining outside, and the second hand on that clock clicks more slowly today. Okay, this is what the handiness of flipping these pages for. Aha, there it is. This one, I believe that a Tom may know. I don't know if others might, but this one is titled Original Snowbirds. This one's the Original Snowbirds. I'd like to tell you the story about a bird. It's fair to say that this is the original snowbird. In Hawaii, the kolea is a Pacific golden plover. These foraging birds hang out in Hawaii until it is spring, where they then fatten up for their over 2,000-mile non-stop flight to Alaska. They have no waterproofing on their feathers, so they don't rest, but fly for 3 days straight. And fossils found in Oahu even reveal that the plovers have done this for over 120,000 years. Because in the spring, they fly up north, and these birds spend 3 months in Alaska. They reclaim last year's breeding grounds and incubate eggs, hatching in 25 days. Mama and Daddy bird leave the nest just after the last chick hatches, and predators like foxes, jaegers, and caribou force these chicks to leave the nest. In barely a month, these chicks can then fly come August, which is when the parents then leave. Now, these adult plovers eat like mad, gain 50% of their body fat, so they have fuel for their 3-day flight over 2,000 miles to their Hawaiian home. Yeah, you heard me right. Every spring, these Pacific golden plovers, after bulking up to make a 3-day nonstop flight up north, they lose 50% of their body fat doing it. And then right after their babies are ready to fly, and they've bulked up enough once more, they leave their babies to fend for themselves. Because the little ones can't make that flight. They don't have the bulk to make that stop, and they never even learn how to navigate. With Alaska summers, they never see stars or a night sky at all until they fly south. Maybe baby plovers use Earth's magnetic field, because it's a miracle when they do reach Hawaii. But I've been told that when they return, they arrive in Hawaii at the exact same spot, year after year, for up to 20 years, and annually are welcomed by the natives. We think we understand the seasons, but in Hawaii, they mark the seasons by the coming and going of the kolea, the Hawaiian word that mimics the sounds of the Pacific golden plovers, the parents and their babies, because they mark the passage of time. There's your animal bird story. I have no idea how long I've read or I will read one more and then we should do another round. How does that sound? Then going for round for the rest of it. I hope that sounds good. I'm turning and looking at John, but he has no idea that by my turning that way, I'm looking at his little icon on my screen. Anyway, this last one, I'll find a spot. Oh, this one's toward the beginning. Is titled, another one that Tom might remember, because it's from another feature, because you give these cool themed features at the Baha'i Faith Center. So from another trip. This one is titled, Protecting Peace Can Put You in Prison. The first Nobel Peace Prize was granted in 1901. The first Nobel Peace laureate to die in prison was Karl von Ossietzky, detained by Nazi Germany. He died in prison in 1938. But there's a new death, do not fret, because it seems that peace can be squashed in any millennia. Do you remember the Tiananmen Square riots back in '89, or at least the iconic photo of the student in front of a tank? Well, those students didn't battle the Chinese government on their own and win. They had help from Liu Xiaobo, a man for peace, and who is revered for his work. But the Chinese government stopped him in 2008 because he was drafting and promoting a manifesto promoting a peaceful political change. And for this, the Chinese government imprisoned him for subversion. Yes, for subversion. This man was sentenced to 11 years in prison, and it was while in prison that he was granted the Nobel Peace Prize. During that Oslo Awards ceremony, they left an empty chair for their imprisoned man of honor. And now the Chinese government bears responsibility, more than for imprisoning a Nobel Peace Laureate who only promoted peaceful politics, but for failure to properly diagnose and treat his ailments. Because on July 13th, the imprisoned Peace Prize winner died in detention of liver cancer at age 61. And sure, we can look around the room and think that we are nice to other people, and that we respect other people. And we may think that as we look around that other people feel the same way toward us. And it's wonderful to surround yourself with people like you, who think like you, who cushion you from anyone who may think differently. Because when you stay in your bubble, everything seems fine. But it's only when you see those who choose to fight, those who are trounced upon and downtrodden only because they support a peaceful coexistence, that staying with supporters is seldom the solution. Peace with the ones you choose to know is one thing. Peace with a mortal enemy is another, when they decide that you were at fault for some unknown reason. So maybe the key to promoting peace is not to share our ideas with those like-minded souls you're near, but to find people least like you, religiously, racially, politically, and just extend your hand in peace, and then see who will take your hand. Okay. That was I'm going to stop that reading because I feel like I'm just reading way too much, but this is from the book Eternal Never Ending Now. If John doesn't put it up, I'll put up the links to ordering this book again. If somebody is close and would like an autographed copy, I've paid for, they're $15 each, I've paid for 10 copies. Nobody will want this one because I've beaten the life out of it by reading and looking and marking everything like mad. But if somebody would like an autographed copy, find a way to contact me because I haven't thought of prices or anything for it or whatever. Thank you all, and thank John F. McMillan.